Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel, thank you. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Battle Through the Heavens based on novel. So let's start. The serene sea scaly beast has already recovered its strength. In that case, we will be able to start the big fight with the Misty Cloud sect after old Hierophines and absorbs the spiritual purple recovery pill. To recover his peak strength, Xiao Yan was more idle during the remaining 2 days after the serene sea scaly beast had completely recovered. Although it was the big fight with the Misty Cloud sect 2 days later, he had already managed to arrange all the experts on his side. Hence, it seemed that he had nothing to do. During these 2 days, the Imperial family, the Alchemist Association, the Primer clan, the Mu clan, and the Nalan clan had all begun to maneuver their strength and gather all the experts that they had scattered all over the place, making perfect preparations for the big fight during this 2 days time period. It was only natural that the large-scale maneuver of the few large factions could not escape the notice of those in the outside world. Hence, it gave a countless number of people the feeling that a disaster was about to strike. Some of the shrewd people vaguely guessed something after they joined the dots with the arrogance of the Misty Cloud sect some time earlier. However, most of the people kept their mouths shut since this was a very big matter. They were afraid of getting into trouble. However, what caused everyone to feel uncertain was that the Misty Cloud sect was still completely quiet despite the large factions gathering experts from all over the place. It was as though the storm in the outside world had nothing to do with them. Time swiftly flowed by like the sand between one's fingers in this storm-filled city. If one counted the time, there was merely a day's gap to the decisive fight 2 days from now. The backyard of the Xiao mansion. The night wind blew over Xiao Yang's hair. He suddenly smiled, turned his head, and spoke faintly. "I have not seen your figure for 2 days and thought that you had already left." Xiao Yang's words had just sounded when there was sudden ripple in the air. A bewitching cold figure slowly appeared. It was surprisingly Queen Medusa. Medusa, who had just appeared, heard Xiao Yang's words. She glanced at him before speaking in an indifferent tone. "You have not refined the soul recovery pill. Yet you want me to leave. Do you really have a great desire to kill me?" Xiao Yang suddenly turned and looked at the cold moving face before suddenly asked. This sudden question caused Medusa to reveal an instantaneous expression. Her face immediately turned cold as she said, "You have used an underhanded tactic to take my body. Should I not kill you?" Xiao Yang smiled and slowly walked nearer Medusa. His gaze was somewhat unafraid as he observed the cold, glamorous face, which appeared as though it would break when it was blown against. He smiled and said, "The matter back then was not my intention. Honestly speaking, I was also forced to do it. Of course, you will think that I am finding excuses no matter what I say now. As for the soul recovery pill, I will naturally help you refine it at the time that we have agreed on. It is up to you whether you want to consume it or not at that time." "Why would I not consume it? As long as I consume the soul recovery pill, the heaven-swallowing python would no longer have any influence on me. At that time, I will naturally not hesitate a little when I kill you." Medusa did not hesitate, as she spoke after hearing this. Medusa's pretty, bewitching, long eyes narrowed slightly. Her cold face was immediately filled with an allure as she glanced at Xiao Yang and coldly said, "Don't tell me that you think that I will still have feelings toward you. This queen is not a human female who would gradually descend after her body is taken by someone. The act you have done to me will only cause the hatred between us to become greater." Xiao Yang spread his hands in a non-committal manner. He leaned against a pillar, and his gaze lazily looked at Medusa. A moment later, he suddenly said, "If you really want my life, you actually do not need to wait until after you consume the soul recovery pill. Even I don't have the confidence of victory in this decisive fight with the Misty Cloud sect. If I am not careful, I might die in Yunshan's hands. At that time, you will also be free." A large hall in the Imperial city. Great-grandfather, the Imperial family's 100,000 elite soldiers have already been placed at a spot not far from the Misty Cloud Mountain. We will seal up the mountain once the big fight begins tomorrow. At the expert level, there are 3 additional expert Do Wangs whom we have groomed for many years on top of great-grandfather and the serene sea scaly beast. These are already the main strength that our Imperial family is able to take out. Under the lamplight, Yao Yi knit her brows slightly and softly spoke to Jiao Xingqian. Jiao Tian nodded slightly. At this moment, this old man with extraordinary experience also appeared somewhat uneasy. This time around, the stakes of their bet were a little too large. If anything wrong were to happen, it would implicate the entire imperial family. You guess what is the chances of our victory this time around? Jiao Tian finally asked softly a moment later. Great-grandfather need not be overly concerned. The strength of our current alliance is not weaker than the Misty Cloud sect. Moreover, there is Mr. Xiao Yang's teacher. Isn't he also an elite dozong? We will definitely win this big fight. Yao Yi smiled and replied. However, her smile was a little forced, exposing the uncertainty in her heart. She smiled while she spoke. Hai Budong also turned his head around when he heard Ya Fei's voice. He smiled and nodded before letting out a long sigh. Everything is already in place. Next, we will have to see just which side the heavens will stand on in this big fight. Ya Fei quietly nodded. This big fight would determine the life and death of two large factions. Should one party be defeated in such a big fight, that party would be beyond redemption. This kind of ending was not child's play. Ya Fei's pretty eyes swept toward the window. She looked in the direction of the Xiao mansion and smiled slightly. She had a strange confidence in that young man at the same time, the Alchemist Association. The Mu clan. The Nalan clan. Many people did not sleep this night. When the first morning sunlight broke through the shackles of the clouds and landed on this enormous capital, quite a large amount of human flow began to appear on the empty streets. Xiao Yang, who was seated cross-legged on a bed, suddenly opened his eyes. His body shook and strangely disappeared. At this moment, there were over 100 black-clothed individuals who were standing quietly in the originally empty compound in the front yard of the Xiao mansion. The dense bloody aura lingered and gathered together. A timid person would be struck by terror when looking at it. Lin Yang, Zi Yang, Old Yin Jiyu, and the other strong people were standing quietly in front of these black-clothed people. An unusual pressuring aura covered the courtyard. Is everyone prepared? The quiet atmosphere was suddenly broken by a laugh. Immediately, a black-robed human figure suddenly flashed and appeared on the stairs. He laughed toward everyone below. Bang! A sound appeared as over 100 black-clothed individuals orderly knelt with one knee on the ground. They did not speak and their aura was not the least bit weak. Xiao Yang smiled with satisfaction when he saw this. Threads of heat gradually surged in his dark black eyes. Today was the decisive life and death fight. The Misty Cloud sect is arrogant and despotic, intending to launch a revolt. The imperial family is willing to lend a hand to the Xiao clan to wipe out the traitors. The Prima clan is willing to lend a hand. The Alchemist Association is willing to lend a hand. The Mu clan is willing to lend a hand. The Nalan clan is willing to lend a hand. The X clan is willing to lend a hand. The S clan is willing to lend a hand. The Y clan is willing to lend a hand. A prideful aura was aroused from the roars that had begun sounding from all over the place. Xiao Yang's black hair hung loose. His laughter spread like thunder and the great pride within it caused everyone in the city to shake. Misty Cloud sect, Xiao Yang from the Xiao clan is here to collect your debt. The Misty Cloud sect was a sea of joy today. Bright red colors lit this large mountain peak like lanterns. The wedding of sect leader Yun Yun was an extremely important event to the entire Misty Cloud sect. Moreover, the person whom Yun Yun was about to marry was Ji Yu, he who possessed an extremely great reputation. Hence, today's wedding would undoubtedly be the most lively day of the Misty Cloud sect in so many years. Under this kind of joyous event, there were many people who had unknowingly forgotten about all the storms in the outside world. From the view of some people, the current strength of the Misty Cloud sect within the Jiomar Empire, this enormous sect, would still not feel threatened even if all the other factions in the empire were to join hands. This kind of confidence originated from their Misty Cloud sect possessing the only elite dozong in the entire Jiomar Empire, Yunshan. The joyous noise resounded throughout the Misty Cloud Mountains since early in the morning. Following the slow rise of the bright sun in the sky, their joy became increasingly richer. There were only two people sitting in a large hall within the Misty Cloud sect. These two people possessed an extremely great reputation within the Misty Cloud sect. The one who was seated in the leader's seat was naturally Yun Shan, while the one seated at a lower level was the main character of today's wedding, Ji Yu He. Ji Yu He, you will be a member of our Misty Cloud sect after today. If these old bones of mine were to disappear one day, I'm afraid that the Misty Cloud sect will have to rely on you. Yun Shan laughed as he spoke to Ji Yu He when he heard the joyous sounds transmitted from outside. Ji Yu He hurriedly waved his hand and spoke with a smile when he heard this. Sect leader is currently an elite dozong and you are currently in your prime. How can you say such ominous words? Yun Shan smiled. His shriveled finger gently tapped on the table as his gaze glanced outside. He spoke with a faint smile. If I am right, Xiao Yan and the others will definitely charge up to the Misty Cloud sect today. That fellow always coveted Yuna. In the past, Yuna was cheated by his sweet words and did some reckless things. Now that he has heard of this wedding he would be angry, because of the humiliation, and will definitely come and cause trouble. A glow flickered in Ji Yu his eyes. A moment later, he spoke softly. I will not allow anyone to disrupt the wedding between Yun Yun and I, sect leader. If the wedding today completes successfully, I hope that you will undo the seal within Yun Yun's body. I will bring her out to travel around. Once she comes around, she will be able to understand sect leader's painstaking effort. Ji Yu He smiled before suddenly changing the topic. Yun Shan fondled his beard and nodded. He said, that's only natural. No matter how one puts it, I raised that girl myself. I also don't feel good sealing her like this. Although Ji Yu He was unaware of how much hypocrisy there was in these words from Yun Shan, Ji Yu He still smiled and nodded before cupping his hand and giving thanks. You can rest assured about today's wedding. I have already made the appropriate arrangements. As long as that little fellow Xiao Yang dares to appear, I will use his life to commemorate your wedding. Yun Shan laughed as he replied. In that case, I will thank you for your concern. There are many things to do today, and I shall not stay any longer. Ji Yu He once again gave thanks. He saw Yun Shan nodding his head before he got up and slowly exited the large hall. Yun Shan's gaze sent off Ji Yu He's back, before the smile on his face was gradually withdrawn. His old eyes narrowed, a faint cold glint flashed past it. It is unexpected that you are actually willing to marry Yun Yun away in order to pull Ji Yu He to your side. The door to the large hall was suddenly shut, without any forewarning. Not long after Ji Yu He left, a cluster of unusual black fog seeped out from the shadows of the large hall before a strange laugh was emitted from within. Ji Yu He possessed quite a great reputation within the Jioma Empire. This time around, we will first let him engage in a big fight with Xiao Yang and the others. Once they have fought until the both of them are terribly injured, we will act like fishermen and reap the benefits. Yun Shan laughed coldly. Act like fishermen means to sit back and gain from two groups fighting. I'm fine with it. However, don't let Ji Yu He die. That fellow has quite a strong spiritual strength, and I think that he will be an outstanding spiritual body. Yun Shan knit his brows. Ji Yu He was currently a Tier 6 alchemist. The Misty Cloud sect would greatly benefit from having him around. Why? Don't tell me that you are unwilling. Yun Shan, if our Hall of Souls can allow you to achieve your current dozong strength from your near-death state back then, we can also once again. Let Yun Shan's expression changed a little when he heard this. He immediately laughed dryly. Protector Wu, what you are saying is the Hall of Souls has done me a great favor, and it is naturally impossible for me to forget about them. Cuckoo, since the Hall of Souls is interested in Ji Yu He, you can take his spirit away after everything is over. Sect leader Yun Shan does indeed understand the situation. You are worthwhile for our Hall of Souls to spend so much effort grooming today. Your Misty Cloud sect is faced with quite a great amount of trouble. You should pay more attention, and don't end up capsizing your ship in the Saw the Black. Fog finally emitted a dark, cold laugh after hearing those words. Thank you for your reminder, Protector Wu. I will make the appropriate arrangements on this point. Yun Shan spoke with a smile. In that case, I shall watch a good show today. Hopefully, you will not disappoint me. The black fog formed a couple of ripples before it gradually became illusionary. A moment later, it completely disappeared from the large hall. Ji Yu He, who had already changed into a bright red robe, stood under the stage. He was full of smiles as he cupped his hands and thanked the surrounding people, who had repeatedly surged over to congratulate him. The bride has arrived. A clear voice finally sounded in the incomparably noisy open ground, when the sun reached the middle of the sky. A countless number of voices were immediately lowered. Numerous gazes followed the voice and looked over only to see a lady wearing a red-colored wedding dress, with a red cloth covering her face. She slowly walked toward the wedding stage in the middle of the open ground, while being clustered by over 10 beautiful female servants like stars supporting a moon. The laughter on the open ground became much richer upon seeing the other main character for today. A countless number of people cupped their hands and congratulated Xiao Yan on being able to marry such an outstanding woman. Even though the other party was Xiao Yan, there were still quite a number of people who felt envious. However, just as everyone was congratulating him, no one noticed that the bride was being supported by the female servants as she slowly walked. Her footsteps had the stiffness of a wooden puppet. Xiao Yan smiled and thanked all the guests who came to congratulate him. After which, he swiftly walked toward the bride and his gaze swept over the latter's face. However, he was unable to see even her slightest expression because of the red cloth. Xiao Yan took the red knot from the female servant beside him and held it in his hand before the pair to be wedded slowly walked to the wedding stage in front of a countless number of gazes in the open ground. Today is my beloved disciple's wedding. Yunshan will represent the Misty Cloud sect here to thank everyone for traveling great distances to arrive in this place. Yunshan on the wedding stage smiled and looked at the pair to be wedded below before raising his head. He laughed clearly to everyone in the open ground. The open ground immediately emitted waves of torrent-like congratulations after hearing Yunshan's words. Yuna is the next sect leader of my Misty Cloud sect. She naturally holds quite a high position. However, with Xiao his current status, he is compatible with her, therefore they can be said to be a good match. Yunshan spoke with a smile. Xiao he smiled and handled the surrounding congratulations from below the wedding stage. Occasionally, he would glance at the bride beside him, who had not spoke a single word ever since she had appeared. The smile on his face was quietly withdrawn with him realizing it. A dark haziness flashed through his eyes. Today, the old me will announce that I will marry my beloved disciple to Xiao Yan in front of all the experts within the Jioma Empire. Yunshan glanced at the somewhat unnatural expression of Xiao Yan below and smiled as he spoke. The open ground once again erupted into waves of voices upon hearing Yunshan's laughter. A countless number of congratulations were tossed toward that pair of newlyweds. The sound of metal colliding sounded and the black figure was forced back by Yunshan, before finally twirling through the air and heavily inserting itself into the hard ground. Everyone's gaze swept over it only to realize that it was an enormous black-colored heavy ruler. Sect leader Yunshan, why do you need to be in such a hurry? It is yet to be decided whether the Misty Cloud sect will be holding a wedding or a funeral today. The clear laughter of a young man slowly resounded across the sky as the black ruler landed in the ground. A countless number of gazes on the open ground were lifted when they heard the clear laughter resounding across the sky. They immediately saw a large group of human figures rushing over before finally remaining suspended all over the sky. The sudden appearance of a large number of people caused some commotion in the open ground. This was because they realized that everyone in the sky had a pair of Do-Chi wings on their backs. In this way, all of these people were at least experts of the Do-Wang class. Quite a number of people quietly inhaled a breath of cool air when they thought of this. There were at the very least a couple dozen human figures in the sky. It was likely that even the Misty Cloud sect would not be able to attract so many expert Do-Wangs with its strength. On the wedding stage, Yunshan's expression slowly turned gloomy after hearing the laugh. He raised his head and his gaze appeared to see through the air as he looked at the black-robed young man flapping his jade-green fire wings in the sky. His dark, cold voice resounded over the entire place. The dog that lost its home back then dares to say such lacking words. Xiao Yan, the old me could expelled you like a dog and forced you to flee 3 years ago. The ending will still be the same 3 years later. Yunshan coldly laughed. Numerous surprised private conversations immediately sounded in the open ground. That person is Xiao Yan. The Xiao Yan who was wanted and chased by the Misty Cloud sect back then. Who else would it be other than him? He has a blood feud with the Misty Cloud sect. Back then, he was chased out of the empire. It is really unexpected that this fellow has returned 3 years later. Not only has his strength soared greatly, but he has also brought back quite a number of experts. It is rumored that the experts whom the Misty Cloud sect had sent to eliminate the Primer clan were all killed by Xiao Yang's hands. If this is true, isn't this fellow a little too frightening? Looks like the Misty Cloud sect will experience quite the trouble today. Hey, that is not be certain. The Misty Cloud sect has Yunshan, this elite dozong. It is likely that Xiao Yang's chances of victory will not be high if they were to really fight. Yunshan's gaze slowly swept over the large number of human figures in the sky while his expression was ugly. A moment later, he stared at the faces of Jiao and the others and immediately let out a cold laughter. Why? Jiao, Fa Ma, are all of you also going to stand by the side of this little fellow who doesn't know the immensity of the heavens and earth? Yunshan, don't think that we are unaware of what kind of wild ambition your Misty Cloud sect has possessed during these few years. Do you really think it is so easy to get us to sit back and do nothing? Since they had already reached this step, Jiao was naturally unafraid of Yunshan. Hence, the ridicule in his words was extremely dense. Ha ha, all right, very good. Yunshan immediately laughed to the sky after hearing Jiao words. It is really unexpected that all of you would have such courage after the return of this little brat, who was forced out of the empire by me back then. Very good. Since all of you are here, there is no longer for any of you to leave today. The enormous misty cloud mountain suddenly emitted a whistle after the loud laughter of Yunshan sounded. Numerous powerful auras erupted from within the sect. Human figures immediately flashed to the sky. The many Misty Cloud sect's elders, who had been awaiting orders, had all revealed themselves at this moment. An uproar once again erupted on the open ground, when everyone saw the Misty Cloud sect's elders flashing and appearing. From the looks of the situation, it seemed that a big battle today was unavoidable. Under the wedding stage, his expression turned quite ugly after Xiao Yang and the others appeared. This was especially when he discovered that the lady, who was covered in a red dress beside him, suddenly trembled when Xiao Yang's voice sounded. An unknown fury involuntarily surged within his heart. Why? Why do you care so much about this little fellow? Xiao Yang, today is my wedding day. Aren't you a little too arrogant in leading people to come and cause trouble in the Misty Cloud sect? He inhaled a deep breath of air before he suddenly raised his head and cried out in a stern voice. Xiao Yang glanced at he indifferently. His gaze, however, involuntarily paused on the lady beside him whose face was covered by a red cloth. That somewhat familiar graceful figure caused his calm heart to tremble a little. The Misty Cloud sect has destroyed my Xiao clan, is that not being arrogant? The Misty Cloud sect forcefully tried to eliminate the Primer clan, is that not being arrogant? Since the Misty Cloud sect dares to be so arrogant, why would I, Xiao Yang, not dare to be? The Misty Cloud sect and I have a blood feud that will not rest until one party dies. Today, I have come only to end this grudge. Xiao Yang's icy-cold gaze shot toward he. His voice also contained cold laughter. Taking revenge is false. I'm afraid ruining the wedding is the true aim, no. He returned a cold laugh by giving tit for tat. Wedding. The bride is but a puppet, who is being controlled by someone. Is there any meaning to such a wedding? Xiao Yang laughed. He suddenly flicked his finger, and a wisp of dark green flame rushed down in a lightning-like manner. It appeared in front of the bride, whose body was wrapped in a red dress, in merely an instant. A faint black glow suddenly surged out of the latter, just as the flame was about to strike her, colliding heavily with the flame. Bang! When the two made contact, a muffled sound and spreading wind appeared, and the bride, who was the first to be struck, quickly took 2 steps back. Yun. He immediately became anxious when he saw the bride step back. He was about to extend his head, when a somewhat trembling cool voice was emitted under the red cloth, I'm fine. Everyone in the open ground exchanged glances with one another after hearing the bride speak for the first time ever since she had appeared. They had also felt something was wrong earlier. A pair of jade-like delicate hands were extended out from under the sleeves in front of a countless number of gazes, and they immediately pulled aside the red cloth on her head. When the red cloth was pulled off, a beautiful, fair snow-like face appeared in front of everyone's eyes. That familiar appearance was Yun. Yun's bright eyes were lowered after the red cloth was pulled off. Her gaze shifted but ultimately did not look to the sky. While her head was lowered, a familiar and unforgettable voice in the sky once again carried a cold laugh as it sounded. Yun Shan, you actually used such despicable means in order to recruit strong people to your side. You really are a kind teacher back then, you were allowed to luckily flee. This time around, I will pull all of your teeth out one at a time after capturing you. Yun Shan's face twitched after hearing the ridicule in Xiao Yang's words. A fierce glow flashed across his eyes. His voice had also become indifferent. Sect leader, today's matter is greatly related to me. Leave this person to me. He by the side slowly spoke with a gloomy expression after hearing Yun Shan's words. Xiao Yang, regardless of who you are after today, it is the truth that you have disrupted my wedding. If you leave now, I can treat it as though nothing has happened. If you still insist on causing trouble, I will also tell you that I, he, am not a softie whom others can bully as they please. He finally raised his head and spoke in a stern voice to Xiao Yang in the sky after seeing Yun Shan nod his head. Yun raised her head by the side and spoke anxiously after hearing his words. Yun, shut up. Yun Shan by the side reprimanded with a cold face when Yun's voice had just sounded. Jiao and the others involuntarily frowned after seeing that he had really stepped forward after being unable to tolerate the situation. The open ground today did not lack experts who possessed a deep relationship with he. If he were to really intervene, these people would naturally not sit by the side and watch. In that case, the strength of the Misty Cloud sect would undoubtedly become much stronger. Xiao Yang waved his hand at Jiao and the others, indicating that they need not be worried. He glanced at he before speaking in a solemn manner. Today's matter is a grudge between my Xiao clan and the Misty Cloud sect. Xiao Yang will view anyone obstructing me as an enemy. Even you, he, is no exception. He let out a wave of cold laughter after hearing the words of Xiao Yang. His shoulders shook and a pair of purple-colored fire wings appeared on his back. The fire wings were flapped and his body gradually floated into the air. Finally, he stood opposing Xiao Yang and coldly laughed. Since this is the case, let's attack. I also want to see just how strong you, the most outstanding member of the younger generation in the Jioma Empire, really are. If you are not defeated within 10 exchanges, Xiao Yang will immediately turn around and leave. However, if you are unable to endure 10 exchanges, please do not intervene in the matters between the Misty Cloud sect and me. Xiao Yang glanced at He. He smiled and said some shocking words. The open ground below immediately started an uproar the moment Xiao Yang's words sounded. During these 3 years, he had advanced to the Do Huang class. Yun was also startled by Xiao Yang's words. Her delicate hand could not resist tightening. Why was this fellow still so reckless despite having not seen him for 3 years? He in the sky ended up laughing from extreme anger when he heard these arrogant words from Xiao Yang. All right, I, he, shall fight with you and receive your 10 moves. I want to see just what qualification you have to actually dare to be this arrogant. The expressions of Jiao and the others suddenly changed when they heard that Xiao Yang actually made such a promise. Although the former's strength had soared greatly, there was quite a big risk if he wanted to defeat he within 10 exchanges. Today, all the factions had gathered and headed to the Misty Cloud sect in the hopes of destroying it in one go. Moreover, there was a 100,000-member army from the imperial family that had begun to surround the foot of the mountain. If Xiao Yang were to make any mistakes at this moment and allow he to receive 10 of his attacks, did they really need to stop all their attacks, which they had prepared for a long time for? Would it not be too childish if this were the case? Once they withdrew today, it was likely that the Misty Cloud sect would attack all out the next day and come and look for them one at a time. Xiao Yang waved his hand when he saw everyone's expression. After which, he flapped his jade-green fire wings on his back, and an unusual heat caused the people around him to feel a boiling hot feeling. The calm, young face caused Jiao and the others to calm down a little. Relax, given my blood feud with the Misty Cloud sect, I will definitely not act recklessly. Xiao Yang smiled and spoke slowly. Everyone exchanged glances with one another after hearing this. They did not continue saying anything upon seeing Xiao Yang's insistence. No matter how one put it, they still held quite a lot of confidence toward the current Xiao Yang. Moreover, they clearly understood Xiao Yang's character, and naturally knew that he would not create some mess in such a place. Xiao Yang, be careful. Ji he has already advanced to the Do Huang class. Moreover, he also controls a kind of extremely powerful flame. Although it is not a heavenly flame, its strength cannot be underestimated. Fa Ma reminded in a deep voice. Xiao Yang nodded slightly. His gaze glanced at the purple fire wings on Ji his back. As long as it was not a heavenly flame, it would not pose much of a threat to him. Jiao and the others paused before slowly pulling back, after a brief hesitation. They gave the both of them a spacious area in the sky. The private conversations below greatly diminished after everyone moved back. Although there had been lots of news about Xiao Yang spreading throughout the Jioma Empire recently, many people had never personally seen this young man, who had returned with great strength, below the wedding stage. Yun could not help but raise her pretty face at this moment. A pair of bright eyes looked at the black robe in the sky. She felt as though she had difficulty moving as she looked at the familiar face in a startled manner. The face had a little less tenderness, and a little more maturity compared to 3 years ago. Clearly, the young man back then had completely transformed during these 3 years. A transformation from a weakling to a strong person. When Jiao and the others withdrew from the sky, the atmosphere there suddenly became sharp with Ji his eyes staring intently at Xiao Yang in front of him. 3 years ago, this black-robed, young man could only contest with his disciple. Yet, 3 years later, he actually dared to create this 10 exchange agreement in front of him. This transformation was that between the heavens and the earth. Today, I will defeat you in front of her. Ji he slowly spoke. His voice had just sounded when an incomparably powerful purple Do Qi surged out from his body. Do Qi lingered on his skin and writhed repeatedly, appearing like clusters of purple-colored substance like flame that was emitting a hot temperature. Xiao Yang's voice did not fluctuate much as he glanced at the gloomy-looking Ji he. If you insist on allowing yourself to be wielded by Yunshan like a spear, it is only natural that I will not show any mercy. In that case, we will see whether you have the qualifications to do so. Ji he angrily smiled. He clenched his fist and Do Qi fluctuated. An instant later, it agglomerated and formed a deep purple longsword in his palm. A fierce flame burned on the longsword. 10 exchanges. Xiao Yang raised the heavy ruler flat and pointed it at Ji he before softly speaking. Ji his face trembled slightly. He did not continue to say any unnecessary words as his eyes widened. He let out a sharp cry and flapped the purple fire wings on his back. His body instantly transformed into a purple figure that shot explosively toward Xiao Yang in a lightning-like manner. His body flashed across the sky and the sharp sword tip easily cut through the air with the help of the powerful Do Qi. In the blink of an eye, the sword's tip had already reached Xiao Yang's chest. A black figure flashed, and an enormous heavy ruler strangely appeared in front of Xiao Yang. It was just like a thick shield that easily blocked the purple fire longsword. The sword and ruler collided, and a sharp wind immediately spread out from the point of contact. It shook the air, and caused numerous ripples to form. Ji his wrist shook after his attack was futile. His sharp longsword was just like an unusual poisonous snake as it swiftly rotated, and moved across the heavy ruler before piercing abruptly forward. The sharp longsword had just flashed past the heavy ruler when a long finger was swiftly extended out. The finger was immediately flicked and a glob of wind accurately struck the sword, bouncing it aside. The heavy ruler was waved at the same time and smashed toward Ji his face. Ji his body moved back and easily dodged Xiao Yang's attack. His eyes suddenly became stern as the Do Qi flowed wildly within his body. The sword trembled intensely and numerous after-images instantly appeared in front of his body while it shook constantly. 1,000 flame sword blades. The heavy ruler that drew a mysterious arc instantly came into contact with the countless numbers of sword figures. In that instant, a powerful force suddenly erupted from the sword figure. In addition, regardless of how many sword figures there were, they had difficulty breaking through the boundary of the mysterious slow-paced dance of the heavy ruler. This manner was as though arrows were raining down from all directions. When the arrows met the great sea-like waves, all of them were swallowed regardless of how many of them were present. Ji his face changed slightly as he sensed the strange force that was being emitted from the other party's heavy ruler. He could sense that the sword that was hidden in the afterimages was gradually being pulled nearer the heavy ruler. This little fellow does indeed have some skill. This thought passed through his heart. His hand shook and a sword figure instantly escaped from the many afterimages, piercing toward Xiao Yan's chest. The sword figure had just revealed itself when the heavy ruler, that had a kind of strange dancing pace, suddenly increased its speed. A suction force immediately erupted and pulled the long sword such that the direction of its attack changed. Xiao Yang, we have already finished 8 exchanges earlier. He flapped his purple fire wings to stabilize his body. He felt his somewhat numb hand before raising his head and letting out a cold laugh. Within a short blink of an eye, they had already exchanged 8 moves. Yet, from the looks of the battle, it seemed that both parties were equal in strength. From the situation, it seemed that Xiao Yang's shameless 10 exchange agreement earlier was nothing but a joke. He did not hide his voice. Hence, the faces of everyone in the open ground had suddenly turned somewhat interesting. Some people even burst out laughing. This fellow was indeed just a little brat, who acted arrogantly by relying on that little strength of his. Xiao Yang glanced at the cold smile on his face and heard the private conversations that had sounded. He randomly waved his hand and sheathed the heavy Xian ruler before laughing in a faint voice. There are still 2 more moves. Why do you need to celebrate so early? 2 moves is enough to finish you, He immediately let out a cold laugh when he heard Xiao Yang's words. The purple fire longsword in his hand was swung and also disappeared. He raised his head and looked at Xiao Yang with a chilly gaze while he said, I want to see just how you will defeat me with just 2 exchanges left. Xiao Yang grinned. The dou qi in his body surged and rolled turbulently like a big flood. Waves of powerful energy filled every single part of his body. Such a condition basically allowed Xiao Yang to be able to unleash an extremely frightening force by simply raising his hand. He also sensed the turbulent dou qi within Xiao Yang's body. His expression immediately became solemn as he circulated the dou qi in his body with all his might. If he really did lose to Xiao Yang within 10 exchanges under the focus of the experts from all over the Jioma Empire, there would undoubtedly be an extremely serious blow to his reputation. Most importantly, he would lose a great amount of face in front of Yun. This was something that he could not endure. Hence, had to receive all of Xiao Yang's remaining attacks even if he had to use all his strength to do so. His heart became ruthless. A stern look flashed across his eyes. He curled his 5 fingers, and they formed a strange claw-like shape. The purple flame in his hand was partially visible. It seemed to be attempting to brew something. The 2 people in the air who had suddenly descended into silence attracted the attention of everyone. Some of those who were quite strong could feel the increasingly powerful dou qi being brewed within their bodies. Clearly, the next exchange might be the most intense. This exchange would clearly indicate whether it was Xiao Yang who was arrogant and ignorant today, or it was he who had an inferior strength. Xiao Yang was naturally unable to hear Yun Shan mutterings. He slowly opened his shut eyes while the dou qi in his body became even more turbulent. His eyes studied he opposite of him, who was already awaiting him solemnly. With a faint smile, Xiao Yang stepped forward and a layer of bright silver glow appeared. With the appearance of the silver glow, Xiao Yang's figure abruptly trembled and immediately disappeared strangely amid the sound of low rolling thunder. Xiao Yang's sudden disappearance immediately stirred exclamations all over the place. Numerous experts had stunned faces. They realized that they did not sense anything when Xiao Yang's figure vanished. This speed was really as frightening and difficult to defend against as a ghost. Yun Shan's eyebrows were slightly lifted at this moment. The speed Xiao Yang displayed had caused him to be somewhat surprised. The one who was most anxious at Xiao Yang's disappearance was naturally he. However, the latter did not lack combat experience. Hence, his spiritual strength swiftly spread out from the middle of his brows after being slightly surprised. His spiritual perception covered the entire sky like a spider web. Come out. He let out a cold smile after his spiritual perception had just been extended out. The wings on his back were flapped and his body rushed toward a certain spot not far from him in a lightning-like manner. A sharp wind was waiting to be released from his curled claws. Those sharp claws viciously attacked a certain space. However, before the wind from the claw could approach, there was a slight fluctuation in the air. A black robe strangely surfaced. The black robe person surfaced, with both of his hands having formed a strange hand seal. His mouth also bulged, appearing like a frog. This appearance caused He to be shocked. He had just moved his body to retreat, when a cold glint flashed across Xiao Yang's eyes. A powerful Do Qi immediately and suddenly erupted with a cry from his throat. Lion Tiger Gold shattering roar. Xiao Yang's final attack swiftly completed when the purple flame agglomerated in his palm. The jade-green flame lingered over his body while a fierce flame covered both his fists. The strength of the glazed lotus heart flame was completely unleashed at this moment. Purple Eagle Incineration. He took the lead in letting out a cry after he seems to have sensed the terrifying energy that had been agglomerated on Xiao Yang's fist. The purple eagle on his claw instantly expanded. It transforms into dozens of feet in size in the blink of an eye before wrapping over his body. A eagle cry immediately sounded and the enormous wings were flapped. His claw danced viciously and tore at Xiao Yang. Both claws cut through the air and an intense ripple intensely expanded out like a water ripple. The terrifying pressure that the flapping of the purple eagle's wings immediately caused everyone to involuntarily change their expression, despite the two being high above the open ground. This attack by he caused even an expert, like Hai Budong, to reveal a solemn expression. The enormous fire eagle was swiftly expanded in Xiao Yang's eyes. An instant later, Xiao Yang's body finally moved. In the face of the attack that came toward his front, Xiao Yang did not take even half a step back. He curled his feet slightly, and the dark green flame on his fist suddenly began to swiftly suppress itself. In merely a couple of breaths, the originally bright dark green flame had shrunk into a slime-like layer. It was even somewhat similar to a strange cuticle-like substance. This kind of dark green flame, that was similar to a slime-like object, covered Xiao Yang's fist. Xiao Yang raised his head and looked at the enormous purple eagle in close proximity. He faced the cold face of he within the fire eagle and smiled. After which, he clenched his 5 fingers and the fist, covered by the dark green slime, immediately smashed violently against the enormous purple eagle without any fancy moves. This punch did not have the slightest skill to speak about. In the eyes of the countless number of gazers below, it was as though Xiao Yang had raised his fist and collided with the enormous purple eagle that he had created head-on, without any fear of death. This kind of disproportionate collision caused a countless number of people to quietly shake their heads. A young man was after all a young man. He was too impulsive. Yun involuntarily bit her lower red lip in the face of such a collision. The delicate hand under her sleeve gently trembled. This attack by he was something that caused even her to feel a pressure that was difficult to describe. Compared to the pitiful gazes of the others, Yun Shan's gaze, who ultimately maintained a cold smile, was looking at the layer of thin dark green slime. A solemnness surfaced in his eyes. He did not expect Xiao Yang to be able to pressurize energy given his strength, which was not even at the Do Huang level. Xiao Yang's seemingly weak fist finally collided with the enormous eagle that he had created in front of everyone's eyes. The entire sky was silent at that instant. The final move. Saw Xiao Yang's mouth open and close and the cold smile that was contained on the corner of the latter's mouth the instant the fist and claw collided. He could vaguely hear the words that were emitted from the other party's mouth. He did not have the time to react after the words sounded when an energy that frightened him until his soul nearly came out suddenly erupted from Xiao Yang's punch in front of him, exploding forth in a torrent of flood waters. This strength was frightening. His eyes shrank even with his strength. The loud thunder resounded across the sky, causing a countless number of people on the open ground to lift their heads in shock. They could only see that the deep purple flame had become like a prairie. The enormous sky was occupied by the fire wave. At the middle of the purple fire wave was a cluster of dark green flame that was unusually bright. It stood majestically still regardless of how the deep purple flame attacked. The strange dark green flame suddenly shook after a couple of breaths. Immediately, an intense firestorm erupted from it. Any area occupied by the dark green flame would cause the purple flame to immediately become like boiling oil meeting ice as it swiftly scattered. That manna actually seemed as though it was no match for an exchange with the dark green flame. The dark green flame was merely a few feet wide initially. However, after the instantaneous expansion, the deep purple flame that had spread all over the sky was expelled and swallowed by the other flame in the blink of an eye. The human figure that was hidden under the cluster of deep purple flame was finally revealed after the flame had been expelled. The frightening strength that had instantaneously erupted poured over his body in a torrent-like manner. A mouthful of fresh bright red blood was spat out in front of the eyes of a countless number of people. The body became just like a bird with broken wings as it descended weakly from the sky. His expression was pale white when he landed on the ground. The corner of his mouth was filled with traces of blood. Some depressed feeling was in his eyes. He clearly understood that the frightening strength that Xiao Yan had unleashed earlier was something that was impossible for him to receive. Moreover, he clearly sensed that Xiao Yan had quietly withdrew some force just before the latter unleashed his strength. Otherwise, it was likely that even he would have a difficult time preserving his life today. At the very least, he was seriously injured. Jiao and the others watched he who was defeated in the final attack from a certain spot in the sky. They also sighed in relief and exchanged looks with one another. All of them were quietly stunned. This fellow was indeed frightening. The terrifying attack that he had displayed earlier was likely something that only Haibodong and Jiao could block. We have one less headache now that he has been defeated. Given his character, he would definitely not go back on his word after agreeing to Xiao Yang's challenge in front of so many people. Haibodong wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and laughed. However, the intense big fight earlier has exhausted Xiao Yang greatly. Fortunately, this fellow has quite a number of medicinal pills. His Do-Chi recovery speed is far greater than what an ordinary person could compare with. Otherwise, the situation might be quite bad in the big fight with Yunshan later. Jiao nodded his head and spoke. He had watched Xiao Yang stuff a couple of medicinal pills into his mouth after defeating he earlier. Allow him to deal with Yunshan alone, isn't that a little risky? The deputy head of the Alchemist Association, Chi hesitated for a moment before saying. Relax, you should not forget that Xiao Yang still has the help of that mysterious teacher. Moreover, if he really cannot do it, old Jiao and I or the serene sea scaly beast can swiftly free ourselves and lend him a helping hand. Given the frightening strength of the few of us, it is likely that we could even contend against Yunshan for a while. Haibodong's gaze glanced at Yunshan in the middle of the wedding stage in the open ground and slowly replied. Haibodong also nodded slightly upon hearing this. His gaze focused intently on Yunshan as he coldly said, Next, we will have to keep a close eye on this old bastard. The eyes of the pale-faced he on the open ground finally began to recover some color, after he was momentarily absent-minded. He lifted his head to look at the tall black-robed young man and laughed bitterly. You have won. Everyone in the open ground was stunned when they heard he personally opening his mouth to admit defeat. They could imagine just how much a great blow of defeat affected he. I will not intervene in the matter between you and the Misty Cloud sect today. He suddenly smiled. His gaze immediately swept toward Yun, who was quietly standing under the wedding stage. His body trembled and the carefully made wedding robe was being torn inch by inch before finally turning into fragments that were scattered on the ground. Yun, perhaps your choice is correct. I am indeed inferior to him. Yun was silent as she looked at his bitter smile. He had an extreme pride deep within his bones. One could imagine just what kind of blow he had received after being defeated by Xiao Yang in order to cause him to say such words. However, she did not say any other words at this moment. It was only a long while later before she softly inquired, Are you all right? I don't have many serious injuries. He waved his hand. He immediately raised his head and looked at Yunshan on the wedding stage. He cupped his hands together and said, Sect leader Yunshan, he has lost today, and must do as I promised. I will no longer intervene in the matter between both parties. Sect leader, please end this wedding. Goodbye. He ignored Yunshan's ugly expression after saying these words. He turned around and strode out of the Misty Cloud sect in front of the many observing gazes around him. The open ground immediately became a little emptier after these experts left. Those that had remained were mostly people who were invited by the Misty Cloud sect, as well as experts or factions that feared the might of Yunshan. Although they knew that they would merely get innocently implicated into the matter if they continued to remain in this place, they could only toughen their skin and remain in the face of Yunshan's increasingly solemn expression. On the wedding stage, Yunshan's eyelids twitched while these experts left with Ji Yu-he. His expression was gloomy. He had planned to get Xiao Yan's and Ji Yu-he's people to engage in a big fight, while he ended up benefiting from it. However, he did not expect that Xiao Yan would actually propose this 10 exchange agreement and really end up defeating Ji Yu-he within 10 exchanges. Moreover, what caused his anger to rise was that this single-minded Ji Yu-he acted in such a trustworthy fashion and obediently led his people away. Xiao Yan, I must admit that you have become a lot stronger during these 3 years. Yunshan gently waved his sleeves as his voice slowly sounded. Xiao Yan glanced at Yunshan from the sky while he laughed coldly. Are you finally unable to remain sitting? However, if this is what you are relying on, this ancestor, refer to this Dozong, shall tell you that you will definitely be unable to descend the Misty Cloud Mountain alive. Yunshan shook his head and smiled. His expression suddenly turned cold as a pair of hands suddenly tightened. A majestically frightening aura surged out from his body. As the frightening aura spread out, the numerous experts under the wedding stage immediately felt their breathing become dull. They were shocked to realize that the Do Qi within their bodies was circulating somewhat sluggishly in the face of this kind of suppression. Even the mere aura of an elite Dozong was actually this frightening. Xiao Yan's expression slowly became solemn as he sensed the majestic aura that surged out of Yunshan's body. This fellow was indeed much stronger than he was 3 years ago. It seemed that this time around, it was really going to be a life and death battle. All members of the Misty Cloud sect, listen up. Do not leave any invaders today. Yunshan lifted his eyes as his dense, cold voice slowly reverberated unceasingly through the entire sky. I want everyone in the Jioma Empire to know that anyone who dares offend our Misty Cloud sect will be killed without mercy. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.